Don't think you can convince anyone of anything. Treat them as customers. You need to understand deeply why they're here, what they truly want out of this. Trying to really understand how they think about the world.
Why do you think brands today fail?
Brands and the marketers that work for them and the owners who work for those businesses are overwhelmed beyond belief more and more.
Now, today's episode is one of the most powerful that I've ever recorded. I'm joined by the renowned Louis Grenier, founder, straight talker, and author of Stand the Fck Out.
Marketing can be a wonderful thing to do when you're genuinely solving problems.
We explore how the marketing world is really flooded with fluff and how Louis' no BS approach cuts right through it all.
The marketing industry is full of very good marketers who use their skills to make people feel.
I would say this episode is really not one to miss out on, and I hope you really do enjoy it. Let's dive right in.
So today's episode is of course brought to you by two fantastic organisations. The first, Studio Space, a leading on-demand marketing agency platform. This enables marketers to browse and brief agencies, receive proposals and start work all in one place. It's literally like having your own agency network at your fingertips without the hassle, as they take care of everything from contracting, invoicing, procurement to legal. So check out Studio Space today. Our other sponsor, of course, is the Marketing Skills Trust, a charity whose mission is to make the marketing industry a better place, providing grants to help create a more equitable industry and help us to level up. The Marketing Skills Trust has been instrumental in championing a more inclusive, diverse and open marketing industry. You can find out more by going to their website. Okay, let's get on with the show.
Louis, it's amazing to have you on the show. Thanks for coming in.
You're very welcome.
You're literally on the cusp of leaving the city in a few hours. So this is the last stop before you get back to hometown Dublin.
Yeah, I'm trying to maximize my time. I don't really like leaving home that much. My wife doesn't have a schedule like mine where I could literally do anything I want, right?
Yeah.
And so when I go to an event, so I was talking to a small event this morning, I like to okay, what can I do the evening before? What can I do after? And I try to maximize my time as much as possible. So yeah, leaving in an hour to get to the airport. Or an hour and a half.
So I will not take too much of your time, but there you go. It's wonderful that you're here. I really impressed. My God, this was a labor of love, I'm sure. Yeah. And a few trials and tribulations along the way, perhaps when you were putting this together.
A little bit.
What happened?
So that book started 3 years ago, nearly 4 years ago. So the game was, I really wanted to write a book. All the people I had on my podcast, Everyone Hates Marketers, which I stopped, and I can tell you why, it was through books, right? Most of the people I invited, I would say easily 90%, were people who had written books I had read. And I was like, okay, I need that for my business. I wanted some sort of an IP, right? I wanted to drop something that was more than me interviewing people and whatever. So it took me 3 years. And the first part was trying to develop the methodology that is the core of the book. And so went back and forth with clients, refine it, and then writing around it. We did beta testing as well. I can share a bit of insight about this, like literal people for 3 rounds destroying the book, and that made it so much better, man. Like you wouldn't believe the shit that was the first draft and what was the worst
what was the worst comment you got?
There wasn't a bad comment per se. There wasn't like this is absolutely pure shit. It was more like very, very deep feedback on, okay, you're sharing a personal story in this chapter. You're not sharing any other personal stories. You need to do that for every chapter. Like very heavy, not small suggestion. Like I wasn't after grammatical stuff. No, it was very much like deep contextual. So yeah, the stories, you need to define the terms you're using. So what I was doing was I was talking about a new exercise to do, let's say, like something to do to follow, such as, I don't know, the monster exercise, like picking a monster, just to simplify. And I used to just go on a tangent, writing about it, and then not really defining what it is. And so many people picked up on that, and that's something I would have never thought of, which is as simple as this technique uses the monster to do this, blah, 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 you know? Like, anyway, major stuff. So after that, right before we were about to publish, so like a couple of months before, I noticed some changes in my bowel movements, right? Nothing major, honestly, like no symptoms that were like crazy symptoms of any kind, but still, just back of my mind, I was like, I saw a leaflet in a pharmacy years and years ago, and just stay in the back of my mind. I need to pay attention to that symptom. Bowel movement changes was like, okay. Went to my GP, and she took it seriously, and she said, you need to get a colonoscopy.
Whoa.
At 36, right? Okay, so colonoscopy. And I went to that appointment. I was stressed because obviously, I mean, the prep of it, have you ever had a colonoscopy?
I haven't.
Okay, right. So the worst is not the during, because you're sedated. I mean, in Ireland, at least you stay awake. You can watch the screen, but you don't really feel anything. But the before, they give you this like pint glass of a substance that is like it's just thick and smelly. It's horrible to empty your bowels, right? Beforehand. So you're starving, waiting, you know, your turn. So I went to that room. There was a nurse. There was the gastroenterologist. And it was good banter, like good crack, you know, as they say in Ireland, right? Good fun. Everyone's joking around. Oh, yeah, your symptoms, probably Crohn's disease, like a small, mild Crohn's disease, something like that, yeah? So I was sitting on I think it's my left, laying on my left side, I think, for easy access. I think it's the left. And within 2 minutes, I was watching the monitor, like right there, right? I was laying down watching it. Within 2 minutes of the colonoscope of my arse, right? I saw this big bleeding thing.
Wow.
And I could feel the room, the atmosphere just changed, just like that. Everyone became like, whew. And I knew it was cancer straight up, right? Because back of my mind, this leaflet that I saw at pharmacy years ago, and I think it's even on the toilet packet, like the wipes and stuff like that, like there's little symbols at the bottom that explains, like, you know, if you have bowel changes, bleeding, if you feel like you're never done, you're has to go, stuff like that.
Yeah.
And I knew what it was straight away. So they called my wife as an like emergency stuff, like you need to come in. So she knew something was wrong.
Yeah.
And the gastroenterologist met us after the procedure, and he said, so it's cancer for sure. I'm going to order a biopsy just to be sure. But even if it comes back negative, we'll redo another one because we know it's cancer. Like it's like textbook tumor, colon cancer. Boom. So at 36.
And you didn't feel any pain?
During the colonoscopy or
no,
before?
Generally, to be able to identify this. I mean, it seems...
I had a couple of moments of sharp pain on the left side, but that wasn't foreign to me. I think I had that before. And I put it down to like maybe just food or anything like that. But there wasn't any like major symptoms. Major, like no bleeding or anything like that. Wow. But like, I don't know, if it wasn't for my daughter, I wouldn't have gone that quickly and take it seriously. So silver lining is bowel cancer is very easy to remove if it hasn't spread.
Okay.
So they literally open you up, which they did to me. They open you up. They do like keyhole surgery. So they do like a C-section scar to remove the portion of the colon, to remove it. But the actual surgical procedure is done through keyhole. So little scar, the belly button. So they put the camera up the belly button, and then 2 other scars. And that took 4 hours. Before that, I had CT scan to make sure that where the tumor was. It was just at the intersection of the sigmoid colon, it's called, which is the last part of the colon, and the rectum. And sorry to talk about those stuff, but actually, no, I'm not sorry, because I think it's important to talk about.
Incredibly important.
If the tumor was in the rectum, that would have been a completely different story. So they would be able to remove it, but then it's like a bag, like a poop bag for life. right? So it was right in the intersection, 15 centimeter up, right? So they wanted to make sure of that. So went for surgery, went really well, took 4 hours. I woke up with like a tube in my, like a couple of tubes in my stomach and a bit, face, but, felt okay. I think the morphine was actually the thing that fucked me up. I just made me so delirious and weird. And and they told me every time you're sore, just press that button, right? And it made me worse. And after like a couple of hours, I was like, I'm going to stop pressing that button.
Wow.
And I felt much better after. So long story short, they removed around that much of the colon, as well as 52 lymph nodes. I didn't know about that, but we have hundreds of lymph nodes in our digestive system that are connected to the colon everywhere. And they removed them because it's usually where the cancer spread first. So the tumor will start to grow as a polyp, which is a non-benign, like a benign thing.
Yeah.
And then after years, it literally takes decades, a decade sometimes, if not more, it grows into a cancer tumor, and then it starts to accelerate a bit, which they call differentiated cells, and it's spread in the layer of the colon, and then it goes out of the colon and spread into lymph nodes, and then it's spread into livers, organs, and then that's a stage 4. Like that's a different story. But because I caught it so early, it hadn't spread beyond the layer of the colon. It only stayed inside. It didn't spread to any of the 52 lymph nodes. None of them were cancerous. So effectively, I think it was November, the cancer was gone through surgery. The only thing that they gave me was what they call adjuvant chemo, which is tablet form. 5 tablets in the morning, 5 tablets in the evening, 2 weeks on, 1 week off, 2 weeks on, 1 week off, 6 times. And today is the last day of my chemo treatment. So that I'm taking it this evening and then I'm done, right? And I'm waiting for a CT scan to check everything is okay, but it should be. So all of that to answer your initial question, which is the book and the journey, right? The very first time I saw that book in a printed format was when my wife brought it to me at the hospital. That was like the proof copy just arrived by mail, and she brought it with her. So it was such a weird experience to be there, like hospital bed in a hospital format, and just seeing my book in the first time. I've never obviously guessed that would happen. Got out 2 days after, and then we just proceeded to launch the book as planned, And I just couldn't wait to do it, and I felt good about it, and I had the luxury to be able to, to work from home, which I normally do, and to be surrounded by my friends, family, and medical team was fucking amazing. So yeah, that was wild.
Thank you so much for sharing that, and it's a really important conversation to have on so many levels. I once heard a stat that when people talk about what's the biggest killer amongst men, it's not seeking medical advice early enough. It's the thought that we delay, we put off.
Yeah, especially for those stuff.
Exactly. And like you say, no major symptoms, yet slight tweaks or changes. And you had the foresight, and wonderful you talk about it in the context of your daughter. You had the foresight to actually do something about it.
Yeah. And honestly, and it sounds a bit cliche, and because I'm in marketing, but I think genuinely marketing saved maybe not my life, but at least made me take it much more seriously because of the leaflet I had seen, because of the repetition of that message saying those symptoms, changes, bowel movements could be very serious.
Yeah.
And if it wasn't for that, I genuinely really don't think I would have taken it seriously for potentially years,
Wow.
And to your point, it is incredibly important to talk about because bowel cancer is on the rise.
Yes.
Amongst
young men,
young generation.
I know.
And especially men, because of microplastics, pollution, and processed food.
Exactly.
So I don't have the genes that make it more likely. I don't have, the oncologist said, you're not supposed to get this at your age.
It's let's try and relate this back to some sort of context of marketing, which I'm sure is hard, but it does strike me when I think about the world of purpose-driven brands, and everyone is out to try and create more sustainability. And what typically we think about when we think about the world of sustainability and purpose is that it's almost one step removed from us. And in fact, as marketers, my mantra has always been to try and look at individual product benefit on the individual versus the sort of the societal benefit. But this is such an incredible example here of, wait a minute, this actually impacts us. This stuff, the stuff that we eat, the stuff that we do, the activities, the environments in which we live, have a monumental consequence on our bodies and our mental health, our physical health. And it's just not given too much heed to. And I love that connection, that mild connection perhaps, of the thought about the stuff that we do every day to make our world a little bit more of a better place actually really does have an impact.
It adds up. It's a system which is extremely complex with many multiple parts, but it does matter. I think marketing can be a wonderful thing to do when you're genuinely solving problems, right? And they don't have to be big problems, to your point. They can be tiny mini problems, but they are part of an ecosystem. So whoever came up with that campaign of bowel cancer awareness that decided to put them in the toilet, the wipes and the leaflets in the pharmacies and stuff like that, it's just the little, it's not like it's top of mind for everyone, ever. And that's the marketing in general. It's never top of mind. No one cares about your brand, right? Like, you're lucky if someone thinks of you for 5 seconds a month, right? But that tiny little seed that was planted helped me, when the trigger happened, to actually connect and take it seriously. And that's honestly, without being like overly marketing, the marketing part, but it's genuinely the way any marketing works.
It doesn't adjust. I mean, and again, it's almost hard to move away without sounding trivial in the context of getting into marketing theory versus your personal experience. But the thought of that, the trend goes that 95% of your market's not currently in market for what you're selling.
Exactly.
And therefore, you need to be able to have these mental, emotional triggers at that moment in time where they become in market at that moment. Louis, and I guess to that extent, I mean, I love, by the way, of course, your whole movement. And the movement, does what it says on the tin of the book, because, of course, stand the fuck out, right? Let's come on to talk a little bit about how you conceive this. Because, I mean, we were just talking in the green room earlier, and you said, you went over to Ireland to work for Renault a decade and a half ago or something like that.
Correct, yeah.
And therefore, and then, subsequently carved out this incredible community, incredible new way of living, an incredible movement amongst the marketing community and fraternity. So how did that sort of happen? Why did you think Stand the Fuck Out? Did you ever think it was going to become such a movement that it did?
Thanks. That makes me feel good. But I don't think I've ever called it a movement, right? And I'm not that self-centered to think it's a movement, to be honest. It all started with a little cohort-based course I launched at the height of COVID. And I just came up with that title of the cuff like that, like Stand the Fuck Out. Could have been anything else. I wasn't sure about it. But the funny thing that happened afterwards was I would receive emails, or I would see like people on LinkedIn using the term, not to describe the course, but more the philosophy of it, which is like people appropriate it to be like, be more courageous and do things that light you up and be honest and whatever. That was never my intention. Like, I didn't have like this kind of delusion of grandeur thinking that will become a movement of any kind. It just by accident noticed that people actually connected with that even more so than what they used to connect with the most, which was Everyone Hates Marketers, which was the podcast, right? But that felt like there was energy there. And I think that's something to really pay attention to as business owners and marketers, is like, pay attention to the thing that people notice. Don't take it for granted, right?
Interesting. Yeah.
Double down on it, because like you might take it for granted, but others don't. So double down on it. So I knew there was something there, and slowly, surely, like very slowly, I did a few more cohorts. I got a bit more like people talking back about it, remembering it.
But come on, it's a bit provocative, isn't it?
Oh, that's what you want me to say?
Well, I don't know, but I'm just saying.
But you see, I'm so, that's the thing. Like for me, you see, like subjectively, I don't find it provocative whatsoever. Because, and that's something that people get wrong, right? Like this book is not about teaching you to be a French intellectual terrorist, right? It doesn't teach you to be contrarian like me at all. It's really like foundational scientific approach to making your brand stand out in crowded markets.
Yes.
And it's extremely versatile. Like you can apply it and you can make it works for, let's say, our mutual friend Joe Glover from the marketing meetup.
Yep.
You could arrive at the marketing meetup and their positive, lovely community with that book. So it's provocative if you don't if you don't really look beyond just the fact that there's a fucking title. But it's actually not. It's very practical, honest. There's no silver bullet, no hacks, no secrets. I'm trying to explain concepts that are usually difficult to express in a way that made sense to me. So scratching my own itch, all of that.
Why do you think brands today fail? I mean, why do we need to have a book like this in existence?
Because brands and the marketers that work for them and the owners who work for those businesses are overwhelmed beyond belief more and more by advice they're getting that are completely wrong, by growth hacks and supposedly secrets that they haven't heard of, by the new tools and tactics and AI stuff that appear all the time. They are absolutely swamped and overwhelmed, and they do not know where to start. They do not know who to trust. They don't know what to trust. They don't know what to do next. And that drives me bananas because the answer is there. You know, like if you dig enough, you'll have the answer, which is obsess over foundational stuff first. So the things that will never change about marketing, the way people think, is not going to change. It's just we are the product of millions of years of evolution, for example. So it's not like your pretty little app or an iPhone that changes the way people are wired, right? So first, when you're overwhelmed and you don't know where to start and you feel like, let me buy this like $999 course, $997, $297, $1,497 course that teach you a secret that like you need to unlock, and then realizing instantly like, oh shit, why did I do this? Like you have this regret because you don't learn anything new and you feel stupid. You're like, maybe.
But that was great marketing.
Yeah. Well, was it? Because marketing is not just promotion. It's also the product. So it wasn't great marketing if your product is shit. And so they're so overwhelmed. They don't know where to start. They end up doing things that they don't believe in. They end up doing the stuff that they think they should be doing based on what they've been told, instead of starting with the foundational stuff. So insight foraging, like basically customer research, but the right way, unique positioning, distinctive brand, and continuous reach, which has the four kind of, I think, pillars of foundational marketing. And so that's why they need this book. They need this book because you don't have to be overwhelmed when you do this, when you do marketing. It's actually much simpler than you think.
Louis, you talk about the fact that the marketing industry is full of fluff. I'd love to get your take on what do you mean by that?
I just said it. Like, the marketing industry is full of very good marketers who use their skills to make people feel less confident about themselves, to make people feel they're missing out, to make people feel insecure, and selling them solutions to problems they don't really have, and selling them solutions that are not really solutions. So that's why it's full of fluff. It's they're using the skills not to the betterment of humanity, even if it's a tiny little break. They actually use their skills to and make the world worse.
When I look at senior marketers and I look at the role of the CMO today, there's a lot of things that you kind of look at, whether it's their tenure, the shortest tenure in the C-suite,
Yep.
the least trusted in the boardroom.
Yep.
If, by the way, you're even in the boardroom.
Yeah, you're lucky if you get an invite now.
Which is a bit of a worry here, and clearly you therefore can't clearly make an impact if you're don't have that credibility amongst your peers in the organization.
Correct. Yeah.
And I wonder, what would you say, or how would you say that marketers should tackle that core issue of credibility in the companies in which they serve?
So there is this, I think, dichotomy, this balance that you always have to thrive, which to look for, which is like the short-term impact and the long-term thing, right? So like you mentioned, the 95% of people out of market versus the 5% in market. So I don't think you can convince anyone of anything or change people's minds, or at least in the short term. Like, it's just the way people are, the way we are wired. So don't expect your board to change their mind. So you're going to have to, like, first, I think, treat them as customers, meaning you need to understand deeply why they're here, what they truly want out of this, what are the triggers for them, what problems are they trying to solve, what keeps them up at night, trying to really understand how they think about the world, and then position that thing that you're doing into a context that they understand and like. And in like to get very tactical is to, if the CFO only talks about gross profit margin and look at spreadsheet all day, you have to meet them where they are. Don't try to like Canva, beautiful slides and whatever. Like talk their language and show proof, show evidence-based stuff, show scientific studies and say, now we're going to try that. Okay, you have an idea for a campaign, like because you think you can do a better job than me because your cousin is on TikTok. So let's play it. Like you'll do a campaign, we'll do a campaign, and then we'll compare. And you might be right. Maybe it generates more revenue your way, right? So that works well usually. I mean, and then another one that is a bit more cheeky, to be again tactical, is like don't ask for permission, ask for forgiveness. So
Or be more pirate.
Try
a bit more rogue.
Exactly, be more pirate, as our friend Sam Conniff said, right? It's about like don't ask for permission, just try a small thing that would show people how the world actually works, and then report on the results saying, sorry, I didn't ask for your approval, I spent 10 grand on that thing, turns out this is what happened, and then it gets much easier. But yeah, it's a weird discipline, because everyone thinks they can be a marketer. No one thinks they can be a fucking accountant out of a sudden, right? It feels easy, but actually it's such a complex beast when you dig into it.
I love that thought, because clearly on the surface, as you say, everyone's got an opinion, but dig underneath that and look for empirical evidence, and it's a different story altogether. I actually wonder if marketers perpetuate this problem. I recently looked at the CMO survey, which comes out from Deloitte every year. And there's a wonderful chart. And it basically looks at the amount of time that marketers spend on different activities. It's by percentage.
I know where you're going with this.
Well, and I mean, lo and behold, I'm sure our listeners too wouldn't find it any surprise there. But actually, our top places where we are spending our time, right? It's advertising, it's digital, it's brand, it's social. Honestly, those are the top 4 areas. And I'm talking about not like, that's the vast majority of where that gets spent. And then if you look, by the way, the other side of the curve, distribution, interestingly, a stat that comes to my mind is 4%. So you spend product distribution, getting your stuff to customers and getting them to sell, and that point of purchase, 4%.
Yeah.
20% for pricing. What are we doing?
That's high enough.
It is. Well,
Isn't it?
would you think? I mean, the point being is, right, ultimately, we say we don't want to be the coloring department, and what do? We color in.
Yeah. Yeah, so it's chicken and egg. And I think Mark Ritson says it way better than I ever could. I think his calculation is marketers only focus on the 8% of their job, and they forget 92% of it. So what he does is it makes this equation about so there's 3 layers to marketing, like the customer orientation, and then I'm going to butcher it now, the middle part, which is like positioning, targeting, messaging, and then the 4 Ps, right? And so he adds the same way to each of those components, and essentially promotion, which is just a fourth of the 4 Ps, essentially leads to like 8%. So he calls it communication, right? Which is like this obsession with communication, thinking advertising is the only thing we can do. But exactly to your point, I think if people were going back to fundamentals first and foremost, you don't have to say you're doing customer research to your board. Like it's just part of the job, right? So you don't have to sell it. It's normal to learn about how people behave and how they act. And start with there, and the foundations will be much more solid. And then start with the core stuff, like the positioning, the targeting, the messaging, and then you can move on to the 4 Ps. And yeah, people forget that, and you can get through that very quickly. Like in the book, it's essentially the same method, right? I just renamed it a bit, make it a bit easier to understand, felt a bit more clear for me anyway. But you can go through it very quickly. Like in an afternoon, you can literally get clarity that you never had for decades by just looking in the right place. So
see, there you go, guys. You heard it here first. Stand the fuck out. There's the book. You know what? Another thing that really pisses me off.
Tell me.
Is when people say the logo is so much more than your brand.
Oh, I could kill them.
Okay, let's do it. Let's start the movement. But look, I'm not discounting. I'm not discounting the fact that it probably is. But yet, when I look around, and I think logo in a slightly wider way, talking about brand distinctive assets, right? If I kind of incorporate those elements to it, it's so core to what we do.
Absolutely.
And yet I feel it becomes in the frivolous, let's discount it and let's talk more holistic. I don't know, how do you see the world in that respect?
Well, it's like those LinkedIn posts I've seen recently. I've commented on one, which is like branding versus marketing. Branding is how people feel. Marketing is, I'm like, this is just, branding is what makes your customers loyal. Marketing is what makes them buy. Like this kind of false dichotomy is like, mate, marketing, branding is part of marketing. Don't try to oppose two things that are completely interconnected, and don't spread lies like customer loyalty can be engineered. Like, no, it's customer loyalty is a product of market share. Like you can't pretty much do much more than just increase market share to increase loyalty. Anyway, like, yeah, so that drove me absolutely nuts. And I agree. When they say that, that's what I think is implied. It's like, it's not more than just a logo. And then they talk about experiential marketing, and they talk about like, it just drive me insane. But like to go back to what you're saying, distinctive brand assets, again, scientific fundamental stuff that shows how people notice and remember stuff that are distinctive. And that rooster on the cover, Roger is his name. That's while Stand the Fck Out
Roger, guys.
While Stand the Fck Out wasn't deliberate as a term, the designing the rooster was very deliberate. And that was based on one key insight that I had learned from the Ehrenberg Bass Institute of Marketing Science, right, in Baron Chapano, that said that mascots and characters are one of the most memorable brand assets and one of the most underused, especially in the B2B context. And with that single insight, I went to a designer that knew me, who'd been following me for years, where like it was just very easy to just get the vibe. And he created a set of stickers like this, that's the fanny pack, for example, right?
There you go.
We gave that away to the people who bought the book in the first few days. There's 70, I think, have been done. And then it's just like, it's so easy to make it
a thing.
And you wouldn't believe the number of people who send me pictures of like, I put your stickers.
Sticker?
Yeah.
Go on, let's have it.
I've put a sticker on my bike, my race bike that was like $3,000. Look, like, and kids stealing the stickers that I give away. They're like, like it's so cool, but I think my kids stole them because they love them so much. And again, like it just goes back to the fundamental of human behavior. Once you understand that, once you lean on scientific stuff, you can make decisions that are sharp, that are powerful, that are where you don't have to guess. And my test subject was my daughter. And when I developed, when the rooster, she cracked up. Like every time she sees it, she's like, I want, like the chicken book, she calls it. And that bag, every time she goes to my office, she tries to steal it. Right?
Amazing.
Yeah, because for her, it looks cool. So I had a feeling that, if she likes it and pay attention to it, then everyone else will. Because she's a child who just cares about the...
But what I like about the thought, right, by the way, is not only is it key, core, central to the brand the way you've been elevated to different assets and the ways that your merchandise and what have you. But the other thing that I've noticed that you do is you carry it around with you in the context of even when we've been messaging, even your gifts at the roosters. And I like that because there's a sense of consistency.
Yep.
And I wonder if there's a notion around that's worthwhile touching on.
I mean, of course, it's... To go back to my point about the leaflet in the pharmacy, it's not like I saw it once. I don't remember how many times I must have seen this. Very much like the packet, the wipe and stuff like that. And that's what marketing truly is. You need to just show up continuously and never stop. And the consistency... Not in terms of necessarily being super consistent about your brand and you can't get out of it. You can't just use a color that you haven't used. It's not consistency in that term. It's more like showing up with regularity and showing the same brand assets as much as possible for years. That's, again, no secret there. It's genuinely what it is. You need to just show up and stop changing your mind. Just commit to something with intensity because that's how people remember stuff. Like you're not going to make them remember you for out-market people in particular, the first time, the second time, third time. You need to associate your brand with specific set of triggers that make them take decisions related to the problem you solve.
What kind of trigger? Give me an example.
Well, for example, I was talking to someone earlier who, after I gave the talk, they're selling a tool that helps you monitor the speed of your website, but way in more depth than Search Console, where you can see the latency and all the like detailed stuff for technical SEOs in particular. And he asked me the same question. It's like, okay, that's cool, that trigger concept, but like, how do I find them? Like, there are triggers that are always there. So big life changes in B2B or like for people with a job or something related to that, new role, new target, stuff like that. So let's pick new role. As a technical SEO, you've entered a new role, you will absolutely audit the site. You will do all the checks. You'll go through Search Console. You'll go through any other stuff, Ahrefs and whatever, to see what's the health of the website. And then you notice, oh, speed is a big deal. We can't solve it via the metrics we have. We need to go deeper. And that's when they look into a solution like that.
Exactly.
So I told him, well, how do you reach people who are out market? Well, reach people who are either looking for a job or are in technical SEO and have a job, or I've just been promoted as technical SEO, and you just teach them how to get a better job, teach them how to do their job, teach them first 90 days on the job. I mean, it can lead, it's just endless. And what I love about this concept of triggers, which is not mine, like leaning on people who are way smarter than me for everything, right? But these kind of trigger events, category entry points, whatever you want to call them, once you uncover what makes people take action, you can then easily, or at least in an easier way, reverse engineer how to show up, right? So like new role is one, but you have, let's say, a new boss or new targets. So if it's new targets or we're under pressure, we need to increase monthly traffic, same thing. So every quarter, every year, right? And you start thinking of like campaigns you can do straight away. Like, I mean, at least that's how my mind works, right?
I love the endless nature of you describe it, because it is about being creative and thinking laterally, thinking strategically, but also being a little bit creative and certainly how you think about it, but also the execution of how you then get into someone's mind's eye, as it were. Louis, I wanna come on to this sort of the opposite of what people talk about distinction and talk about differentiation, because this is an interesting one. And by the way, there's a wide debate, of course, distinction versus differentiation and all the rest. But I think you have a particular point of view when it comes to differentiation and how you almost pip yourself against competitor sets. And I'd love to get your perspective on this.
Yeah, so again, false dichotomy between differentiation versus distinctiveness. It's not either or. It's again, if you look back at scientific ways of how people remember stuff, think about stuff, act, you need both. So differentiation is how do you give folks a meaningful reason to pick you over the competition in a way that they care about, like, so a meaningful difference. It's not like a meaningless differentiation just for the sake of it. Our product is different for the sake of it. No, it's, are you able to solve problems or struggles that are important for people that are mostly ignored by competitors or direct competitors or indirect competitors? That's the crux of true meaningful differentiation. It's your ability to deliver something of value because it's solving a problem you care about that others are not solving well. And I don't mean direct competitors necessarily. I mean anything that can do the job. So that's differentiation. So when you offer something that is like a meaningful differentiation, you have an advantage against any other brands, even if they're bigger than you, because you become the least risky choice. And that's why niching down is important as a smaller brand, because you want to double down on smaller, overlooked, ignored struggles that big brands don't care about.
Yep.
And then use that to your advantage so that you can really capture a subgroup of that segment, and then use the potential, the revenue that you generated to then go up and up and up. And then after a while, when you're too big, you cannot, in good faith, claim differentiation. You can't say that you have a meaningful differentiation because you're essentially solving the exact same struggles that others.
Yeah.
So then what you really need is distinctiveness, which is like the ability to say, we look different, we feel different, like we like people remember us differently. There's something that is anchored in our mind that makes us remember them more than the other. And that's why it's so important to cultivate a set of distinctive brand assets that are very different from competitor, at least in one dimension, that you show up continuously stay top of mind, right? That's why, to go to major cliches, that's why Coca-Cola still talks about it. That's what McDonald's still do it. It's just to refresh people's mind and stay top. So that's how I see the two. And so there's no one versus the other. It's just you need both. And ideally, even as a small brand, even as a creator or personal brand, you need both.
I sort of resonate with that thought, particularly about the differentiation point and the challenger point. And I feel like if I've analyzed quite a lot of fintech brands in the world, and actually what they all do is they double down on one product set, one product area, and then they expand out over time. And then that gives them better lifetime value, that gets more customer loyalty, that's more things to sell. But it's always from an embryonic point. You touched on the word personal brand, and I have to go there now.
Oh, here.
There we are. I mean, Louis, you've carved out from your corner of the world an excellent personal brand, and of course, going all over now. I'm sure doing lots of talks and the like. How did you manage to do that? I mean, one, perhaps did you ever think you could do that? Was it conscious? And maybe what are some of the things that you've done that have actively helped that area?
So one thing that drives me nuts is this way some so-called experts in marketing, personal brand, or LinkedIn or whatever try to give you a playbook to reverse engineer in order to get the same result they got. And making people believe that by following the exact same steps, you arrive at the exact same destination. And I think because they're starting with the end in mind and reverse engineer, it's never going to work out for you the way you think. And for me, I never set out to create a personal brand. Never. Like, that was never my intention, still not. That's not it. My intention is to show up online and offline with my true self, meaning when people meet me face to face, they think actually online you're the same person.
Yeah,
there's no difference. They know how to get along with me. They know like that I curse, and they know I'm very honest and transparent. Like, I don't need to explain any of that.
By the way, I can get this. By the way, I can give you that validation. You're true. It's true. It's
yeah, and that's very difficult to achieve. Yeah. And it took me years of showing up. And that's kind of the secret that is not one. It's just literally, I've been showing up for more than a decade. I've made all the mistakes in the book. Do you know how many broadcast emails I sent through Kit, like my email marketing software, over the last nearly plus 10 years now?
Millions.
No, so
no, give me the context.
Yeah, not to how many people, but how many times have I pressed send to send something to my list?
Oh, wow.
Guess.
I think it's a huge number.
Yeah, it is. I mean, for me, at least, it feels like more than 1,000, right? So I've sent more than 1,000 individual email to my list. I have a daily newsletter, so it's obviously accelerated a bit. So, and I can say that the first 700 were quite shit, you know? And it took me, you can't find your voice in the shadows. And you can't over-engineer.
You can't find your voice in the shadows. That's a phenomenal sentence. Sorry, I had to drop the word.
I don't think it's from me. I think I wouldn't even remember. But you can't. And you have to just put something out there that feels that you need to get it out. You have something you want to say. You have something you want to share. You've done the cool thing. You want to talk about it. And then pay attention to what people notice, what people don't notice. That's why social media is extremely good for that. It's like instant feedback,
exactly,
right?
Yeah.
And then you start discovering what makes people click, but also what lifts you up. Because you can't fight your own story. You know, you can't go against who you truly are, what you believe for long. I tried that. I own 3-piece suits, and I used to be like a marketing consultant trying to act the way I thought people expected me to act.
Yeah.
And it takes a while to discover that. It takes a while to discover who you are, what lifts you up, your story. It takes a while to discover that voice. It takes a while to discover what makes people tick. And then it just takes time. And again, this is why a playbook in 5 steps to discover a personal brand is not going to work, because it starts with the end in mind instead of starting with the fundamental of making art, right? Like, I think if you do it with art in mind, meaning I need to get that out in the world. I don't care if people like it or not. It's for me first. Then you got, that's when you're...
that thought that I don't care if people like it. I'm going to put it out there anyway. I mean, double-edged sword territory, but actually I've had to fight the battle on that one too, because it's so easy to get nervous as you click that send button, whether it's your broadcast email, whether it's socials. And a lot of people will be really nervous about being able to do that. I mean, is the advice you just have to kind of break through the barrier?
You need to decide what you want. Not everyone is made necessarily to be a business owner or a creator or an influencer, but it's part of the job. You need to. The beauty of the internet in that sense is that you can get almost instant feedback, and you can. People forget anyway. Like the spotlight effect means that as people, we tend to think that other people think of us way more often than they actually are. For example.
Yep.
So people don't really give a shit about you, man. They care about one thing more than the rest, themselves. That's what they care about. So you can show up, you can repeat the same thing, you can share one core message 1,000 different ways, you can change the format, change the channel, change the way you talk about it, but the core point of view, the core thing that you believe in can be the same. So you need to show up, you need to know what you want. And it's not for everyone, it takes a while. But it needs to be, I think, at least it's the way I've done it, and the reason why I keep going is that I do it for selfish reasons first. I do it to get my thought out. I do it to externalize my thought and put them on paper. I do it because I genuinely want to help people, and it comes from within, right? It's a drive that's not going to stop. It's not to please anyone. It's not to make myself look good. It's to just externalize my shit,
And the funny part is, there's so many people out there who will be in roles and jobs who are not enabling them to be able to kind of be that person.
Right.
And I think that's actually a tough gig, because you're not being true to yourself. And actually that's an injustice that I always try and help people to try and solve for, whether it's to get into the right role, the right place, the right space, to enable them to do that. And if you can't find it, well, maybe you have to do it your own way.
You have to play the game. I think another thing that pissed me off about all of this is like people sharing, you need to share a point of view, you need to be contrarian, you need to... And telling that to junior people who haven't been in the field or in an industry for that long. Like to be able to challenge anything, you first need to understand what you're challenging. You need to understand the rules. You need to understand where you are. Like it took me a while to develop an opinion about marketing stuff, because I didn't know enough. And I didn't work with enough brands. I didn't make enough mistakes. So again, this is why it takes a long time. You need to start from the beginning. You can't start with the end in mind. The beginning is, you're going to look silly and you're going to do things that don't feel like you, and you're going to be fired, and maybe you disagree with your boss. But that's normal. Like the mess is part of the deal. Like marketing is messy. Life is messy. You can't control it from the start. Like you need to let go and focus on the moment of today, learning from that, and then slowly but surely, even if you're employed and you don't like it, well, maybe you can go somewhere else, to your point, and feel 90% yourself instead of 50% yourself. And maybe when you have enough experience and you know what to challenge, then you can do your own thing. But again, it takes a long time.
It does.
And it's normal.
Does. Well, we're coming to the end of the segment. It's been phenomenal. Really great to have you on. I heard this wonderful quote that said that anyone who is someone is known for something. And I wonder, what would you like to be known for?
Hopefully someone who's helped make the marketing world a bit slightly more honest. That'll be fine with me. I had those weird messages after I announced my fight with cancer. Almost obituary type, but like basically saying, we're so happy you're still here with us, and the marketing world needs people like you, blah, 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 right? And I felt so weird because that never entered my psyche. Like to be dead, no, that wasn't part of the option, right? I got lucky enough for that. But yeah, like if I can have a tiny impact on helping some folks feel happier about what they do for work and do stuff that lift them up, and then I'll be happy.
Louis, it's been fantastic having you on, mate. Thank you for taking the time.
Thank you for listening. That's a big deal, to listen to people, what they have to say, instead of having like set of questions that you can't get past. So that was really enjoyable. Thank you.
Absolute pleasure.